we have made it.
Indeed. This is great music for the Mundane.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Right.
It strikes me as good music for the Mundane.
Theme song of Mundane, yeah.
This is as appropriate for this topic as it was inappropriate for the scary stuff.
That's right. That's right. Incongruous is the way I like to live my life. Yes, it is
100%.
Mumamo, and RC Beeler says happy Mumamo, folks.
Did you say his name wrong on purpose, Troy?
Yes, I did. Happy Mumamo superfan says Mastermind Apook, hanging out in an adjacent universe.
Ooh. We love an adjacent universe.
We do.
Right? I hope Pope makes it for this one.
I hope so too.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
his fault.
Gerald is here, and so is Gene. Everyone's saying hello. Now, how about this? Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Now,
I missed you all last week.
Yeah,
Yeah. we
you
missed
did.
you.
My
Little under the
throat
weather?
rebelled. It tried to kill me.
Well, you survive unscathed.
I'm glad you got rested and well in time for UConn. So
Yeah, me too. I was able to speak all weekend without feeling too much like there was a hole in my throat,
Okay, good.
which was good.
Good. All right, tell us about the weekend before
It was
we
great.
jump into.
We ran 6 Mutants and Masterminds events at the convention, and all of them were a smashing success,
Nice.
including some for a bunch of players I've never met before, which is always nice.
Hey, that's great.
yeah.
What did we do? We played X-Men, and we helped a young mutant who was driven to his powers by a religious anti-mutant cult, which was a lot of fun. They got the fastball special Dormammu with Colossus and Wolverine.
Oh,
Nice.
We had 2 Titan City games that were a lot of fun. We had the Gotham City Misfits, where Mongol was defeated by 2 jars of peanut butter and a teddy bear with a machine gun in its head, which was really
wow.
embarrassing for me.
Now, do you care to explain yourself? That seems very something.
So I was also playtesting some of the new Valiant rules this
I
weekend.
see.
And
How was that going?
that damage was damaging. That damage was it was popping off.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't realize the sort of the new Valiant variant rules were so heavy on the peanut butter.
You know, the peanut butter was me. The rules were their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Condiment
I see.
King had a couple of jars, and
Right.
he held up his ketchup and mustard guns to the back of Mongol. Was like, "This is a stick up," and Mongol took a free action to laugh, and they got beat up. So it was great. What else
Moist on
happened?
his own mustard.
Mhm.
Yeah, we on Sunday morning, our Legends of Tomorrow went and rescued Elvis from the space caterpillars who abducted him and took him to the 80s for an Elvis impersonator convention, where Elton John was one of the judges, which was great.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wow, that was a lot.
Right. There's
that
a
was
sentence
lot.
you don't hear every day.
It really, yeah, it isn't. I mean, it's a great one. It is one that I am processing.
My favorite sentence from the whole game was, "Elton John is too high to be mind controlled by caterpillars." So that was
T-shirt worthy.
Yeah, I
Right.
think so. And then
I
we
dig.
closed it out with my Superman for All Seasons, where we had Mulan and Princess Leia and Superman and Invincible and
Ooh, I like that
Spider-Man
one.
all together. So it was a good story.
Nice. How did everyone do?
They did great. Everybody had so much fun with Eminem. We were nice enough to bring a Deluxe Heroes handbook to give away at each one of the games. So there are 6 more players' handbooks out there in the world that are hopefully going to bring more people into the game.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we had a fun interview on Friday night with.
You did. It was great.
Yeah, we talked about. Am I allowed to talk about that here, Troy?
Yeah. I mean, sure.
We announced that the Valiant source book will be going on Kickstarter on January 16th.
Mhm.
So, and we talked about some of the new rules and some of the design philosophies, and yeah, people seem to like the adventures or the new rules as we were playtesting it a little bit.
Nice, nice. Well, hey,
Well, I'll
listen.
say they
That's
really
nice to
liked it
hear.
when they worked on the villains. They really didn't like it when it happened to them.
They liked it when it worked in their favor.
Yes.
Shocking. Yeah. Hey, I want to say hello to Hornetico. Am I saying that right? Hornetico? Isn't that a company of hornets, like hornet executives doing some kind of bee business? Or is it like the car? Jason Jenkins says hi. Go ahead. Sorry.
I do have one last thing I want to talk
Oh,
about.
yes, Paul. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
I found out that the plural version of the name Elvis is Elves, and it's spelled like elves. So I'm running a sequel next year called Blue Christmas, where all of Santa's elves have been replaced by Elvises.
By
Elves.
Elves.
By Elves. Okay. I'll buy
There
that.
wasn't an official name for a group of Elves, so I've decided it's a gyration. Do with
Of
it
course
as
it
you will.
is. It is now
Sure.
canon. So mote it be. I love that. Hey, Jason Jenkins, hi to you. Rebel Moose says, happy Mumamo. RC tagged a Pope because, you know, you
Pope
need
is
to.
here.
That's right. Pope is here in chat. Allergies are dangerous, Gerald. You are correct.
Mhm.
I'm late, but I'm here. Sean, you're here. You're right on time.
Yeah, right on time.
Right on time. Cloud is here. Says new M&M character creation poll up on Threads. Energy controller versus supernatural creature versus totem.
Oh,
There's RC's the link wizard today and dropped a link to that poll. So everyone head on over there and give that a
Wait.
yeah. Let's see. Pope says potty mouth minimalist companies be spelling baba booey as b-b-boy. Okay.
bye.
B-b-boy. RC says I'd rather fight the evil Santas again. Yeah. You have better luck, I think. A gyration of Elves will to live diminishes more every day. Yes, the will to live. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope we can restore your will to live with your topic today.
That's
Pope.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So what we're talking about is adding the mundane to your world and highlighting it and creating it as a character, as a, you know, as a sort of a living tapestry of norm.
Yep.
And that was given to us by none other than Pope Brandon Brownson.
Right.
Yeah. So Pope, what that means is that you get a real life hero point, and that hero point you can eat, you can share, you can change the world, retell a tale so that it's even more gripping, win an argument. There's so much that you can do with that, and we look forward to hearing every detail. Well, maybe not every detail, but we're looking forward to the topic for sure, and we thank you for that. You know, that was given during our planning episode, which we do once every 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah.
somewhere near. I think the next one's in March, however far away that is.
David Bullock, I do not know what that. I am not going to say that word. We're getting creative.
Which word?
Gravy
boat?
Gravy Squatch's most powerful time of the year is around the corner. David Bullock said late because he was polishing the gravy boat. But then if you read down, there's a word that just comes out. It's a bad mouth feel.
Oh, it's poutine moss.
Poutine mouse.
It's Christmas for poutine. You know what poutine is.
Oh, not poutine animas. Is what
No,
I want.
not pouty enemas. No.
Pouty
No.
animas. Jeez. RC says
An enema's
sometimes-
only pouty if you want it to be.
That is true. You are in control of your own emotional measures when it comes to your poutine animas. RC says sometimes it's as simple as having a recurring restaurant that the DM says isn't high quality, but the players keep going back. Yeah. Has an array of vehicles. Gravy Squatch has an array of vehicles that includes both gravy boat,
The gravy
and
boat and the gravy train.
Yeah.
And the chuck wagon.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Put in the supporting casts. Exactly. Not the, or yes, all this conversation is so holiday worthy. And I'm not reading that sentence either. Hey, if you want to read that sentence, friends, make sure you pay attention to the live chat because it's a real treat. And all kinds of information and details that are best read quietly.
And kept to yourself.
Reading
Yes.
and publishing is not responsible for any psychic damage that you may incur.
That's right. Area of effect. Yeah. What would the saving throw be like? What would you roll for? What would you have to roll?
probably a
Fortitude in this case.
Fortitude, indeed.
I was thinking will. I was thinking it's a willpower.
Okay, depends, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Depends
the
on where it
jury's
hurts.
out.
Right.
That's right.
It's true.
So, gentlemen, we're talking about adding the mundane.
Yes.
Working with the mundane. It's a subject that we thought a lot about. I mean, there's a lot to be said about it. It's also live chat. Be very crazy. Thank you, Melon. for the warning and the acknowledgement for your own safety. Yeah, let's talk about it. Break it down.
Well, I think that there's kind of two ways to approach the mundane in terms of your, Mutants and Masterminds games. One is the, sort of what we could call the sort of day-to-day details, the little details, the things that, just come up, in people's lives. And, getting some, just little recurring elements in your game that lended a sense of, verisimilitude and give people a feeling that it's a real world. So, like the names of the popular magazines or websites that talk about superhero gossip, or
Oh yeah.
do superheroes endorse products? Or what is the the most popular talk show
Yeah.
or podcast about superheroes? Are there superheroes? I mean, one would assume there are tons of podcasts about superheroes. What are the big sort of podcasts and things like that? What is just even the local neighborhood like? We did a lot of that in Freedom City. In terms of the mundane details of what were all the hospitals called, and what are all the radio station call letters, and just little bits that you can drop into the background of your game to talk about things that make it seem like a real place, a real world.
Right.
As far as that goes.
Yeah, and it really,
Okay, sorry,
I think
go ahead.
just some of those little things, it really makes the place feel like it's alive. Like, I'm sure you had the similar moment, Steve, when you got your Freedom City map for the first time. But when I got my Titan City map, just seeing where the subway stations and the train yards were made it like, I was like, oh, that's where people go when they're ready to go to work and it's time to go to another. Yeah, it was so real.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I also think it's a great opportunity when you're exploring this mundane stuff. It gives you a lot of things that you can look at from our world, and it gives you chances to sort of take those things to their extreme to make comments about things that are going on. I think the Boys TV show does a very good job with that in regards to just sort of what's going on in our society, not necessarily from a building and restaurant and all that concept, but things like what are businesses like? What are general people in charge? How do they feel about the people that they're in charge of? And just
who are the people
things
caught
like
in the
that.
crossfire of the, yeah.
Right. And that's the sort of other aspect of the mundane in a superhero setting, is to decide how much of it, at least how much mundane reality you want to have intrude on your superhero setting. By default, my approach tends to be that you want to keep superheroes light, and you don't want to get bogged down in a lot of mundane detail. Like, it doesn't really matter whether the superhero team pays taxes or not.
Right.
But if you want to go for a more realistic setting, and you want to look at, well, what would the impact of people having superpowers be, on the world? There are just a ton of implications to play around with and look at in terms of, potential ways the world is different, and just things that are potential adventure hooks or ways to, sort of bring interesting elements into the setting. As far as that goes.
I think there are mundane things that you could make whole campaigns about that are cool.
Oh yeah,
like a danger, like what is it? A damage control campaign where your heroes who are in charge of going and like taking stock of what happened after another superhero team came through and caused a fight, or
sure.
if you're police officers who deal with like super powered individuals and things like that.
It can be something as simple as the implications of, if there's someone who has the superpower of being able to heal people, basically the healing power in Mutants and Masterminds. What is that person's life like when modern medicine is like, okay, there is literally an endless line of people who need healing.
Oh my
you
gosh, the pressure, yeah.
You could be at this pretty much every hour of your waking life and never treat everybody who needs your power.
And have and have a lot of pressure and sort of
Right.
nightmares.
And so how do you decide? Do you? When just random people on the street come up to you and say, please, somebody I know needs healing. Can you come with me?
How can you not?
How do you say no?
Yeah.
What does that character's life become like?
I'm wondering how there is any church in the Marvel universe that isn't a Norse god church.
Well,
when Thor shows up and he's real, like, and everybody sees Thor.
That is such a solid, because we do sort of gloss over that in the, it's just sort of like, oh, another god, and what happens to God? Yeah, that's very mundane, but not so much, Hey, I want to catch up on some of the chat here. So, oh yes, sure. A guy named Charles who can turn into different vehicles and goes by the hero named Chuck Wagon. Yes, that's savory. But Pope says, I love imagining how the mundane is different in a powered world and how things like delivery, fire departments, and what you see at the supermarket. That's interesting too. Yeah, the way health products are advertised. Yeah, that's really interesting stuff to kind of help kind of tie a bow on this. And Tempo says, I'm thinking of Tiger and Bunny, surprisingly idealistic despite the corporate superheroes since they still want to save people. I like that.
Yeah, I like Tiger and Bunny. I've seen quite a few episodes of that. It's sort of like The Boys if they had some optimism in their life.
That's great. Yeah, and RC and both Gene and RC are talking about how much they like this simple life stuff from the Danger Zones.
Good. Yeah, that's a great example of applying a lot of mundane detail.
Well, there's also another great example that I want to, so here we're getting ready for the for Mumamo, and Steve says, "Hey, friends, I want to do a thing," and I was like, "Okay, cool. What is the thing that we're doing?"
Well, so we were talking about this subject, and it occurred to me that we have talked a lot about this in Chapter 2 of the Paragon's source book, which is a source book that was all about superpowers changing the world and affecting the mundane and those kinds of interactions. And I said, hey, it would be great if we could just give folks Chapter 2 of that book, and they could hear all about that stuff, without us having to, read all of it to them.
Well, you know what? It's our early sort of, we're just saying thanks. And, but here's the deal. You got to be a part of the live chat. So if you're not here, you missed it. So there you go. I'm going to, let's see, as it will only be available during the live show. Okay, there we go. I'm going to hit enter on that. Tell me y'all if you can see it and click on it and download it, but do so soon. Because you don't want to miss out on it.
So,
please.
Simon says that in their setting, railway companies put the names of their train stations on the roof so that superheroes who are flying by can read them. Things like that.
Oh, right.
Which is something that they did for early planes. In the old days.
That is interesting. Very interesting. I do wonder too, when you see, sometimes we'll see our celebrities overseas in some weird commercial about rice, but you have no idea what it is. Like I could also see there being some of that kind of to play with,
absolutely.
Yeah. Commercials in superhero universes have to be the best commercials.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Even if superheroes aren't doing endorsements, there are definitely going to be people dressed as superheroes, doing endorsements, or companies that want superhero mascots.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think Captain Crunch changes his outfit from Admiral to like Captain America?
Captain's, more of a superhero, Captain Crunch.
Yeah,
I think
so.
Yeah.
That's like in the serial's like, all I don't know, all supers or something.
Yep.
I like it. Let me go back in time here. There was an episode of Ben 10 where he tried to hit every franchise of Mr. Smoothie in town, and hijinks ensued. That's from David Bullock. Yeah, sure. I remember Remember when Crystal drew them out for us, and we have Juicy the Juice Bear or something?
Yes,
That to me seems like a little a corner of the world rich with some opportunity.
absolutely.
Let's
I'm
see.
here for Juicy the Juice Bear.
I am too.
Right.
I've actually got to find the logo because we made one and it's
We
very juicy.
do have one somewhere.
Yeah. Let's see. Aberrant is another game that has a setting that really focuses on those ripple effects.
It absolutely does.
Hmm.
That's one of that setting's high concepts. Basically, is what if real people had superpowers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gene says something that's interesting. Will the law be harder on superpowered people than normal ones, you think?
It may or it may not. Honestly, I mean, you can certainly see ways in which the law would want to crack down on people with powers in order to keep things from getting out of control. But at the same time, we can also come up with ways in which the law would actually go easier on people with powers because for any number of reasons. I mean, one easy, common one is the notion of, and this gets played around with in other settings, the notion of citizen's arrest actually makes it so that people with superpowers stopping crimes aren't subject to all the normal rules that police are.
Yes.
And so, you can see in some situations where, society might want to quietly encourage that and say, yeah, if you have superpowers and you want to stop a crime in progress, we're not going to come down on you hard for that. That's a good thing, at least until something goes wrong.
Right.
At least until it's time to go to court and you've acquired all this evidence without a warrant.
But you don't need a warrant because you're not a cop.
Oh, well,
that's right.
That feels bad.
It feels almost.
It gets real interesting when you start talking about characters' super senses and things like that. I mean, reading someone's mind, probably not admissible in court, but because you can see through walls and you saw a crime about to be committed.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's so messy. I actually played a game this weekend called Mutant City Blues that had an interesting way to get around with some of that stuff, because all the people with superpowers who are police officers have to get specialized warrants for things like mind reading. Or it was pretty cool.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, so, the modern day law enforcement has like qualified immunity. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Yeah,
right.
that'd be interesting and challenging and a little close to home maybe, but yeah. Let me dive into these chats real fast. Apuk was talking about the Good Samaritan clause. Which
that's pretty much what we're talking about.
That's right. And that of course being Santa Claus's cousin. Let's see. Ramu says, with high enough power supers, there's also the idea of the government having contingency plans for taking down a super lethally or non-lethally. Maybe for each one they've got a plan because they kind of have assessed their weaknesses. And,
you can pretty much count on that in a realistic setting.
Absolutely.
I think I just found out on pro registration live on air. There's so many things. I'm like, I feel like there should be somebody who's watching out for people's rights. Maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I feel
until proven guilty is part of our thing.
Sure.
Do we count the this moral struggle of who's, people who will kind of say, oh yeah, of course I'll do the government's bidding and have my qualified immunity and get, and then the other people who are like, you can't do that, and that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely going to be conflict over that.
Now, this is something very interesting Angel brings up. I imagine construction companies trying to make near indestructible materials to minimize destruction. Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal, right? I mean,
maybe a race to the top for that.
Although, on the other hand, there's, a lot more business to be had in reconstructing things than there is in building buildings that don't fall down.
Wow. Could you see a whole thing? Yeah.
I guess planned obsolescence is part of our society.
But
after that makes the phones fall apart in a year and a half, every construction company would be like, it's indestructible. Totally.
but that also, talking about things like construction, also raises that in a more realistic setting, if you're dealing with the mundane, you're also going to have a lot more people with superpowers who aren't using them to, like dress up in costumes and fight crime. If I'm, if I'm super strong and I can, carry, massive steel girders in my bare hands, I'm going to be way better at construction, than I am at going just, around like randomly punching people.
Sure.
For example, we're working on a loading dock and being way more nimble than, even the best, forklift in the world.
Yeah, I always joked if I ever got super speed, I would go to like a big box retail store and say, hire me for every position for your overnight stocking company and pay me for
Right.
the whole time. And then I'll just
And
do
I'll
it
do
all.
it all. Boom.
I could see
Sure.
some like that being some kind of like a college kid who has superpowers that's maybe solo or doing something is kind of making the world work for him or them as they can. That's fascinating.
Yeah. If you're a teleporter, you're the world's fastest courier. If you can carry people with you, you're also, the world's fastest mode of transportation.
World's fastest ambulance.
Yep. Whether it's emergency evacuation or it's, people who want to pay you a huge amount of money because they want to be, on the other side of the world right now.
Yo, wow. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, people saying I just need to get where I need to get. And
Yeah.
you know what I need and I'm paying you for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So Ken Pham says there'd probably be no police, to be honest. I don't know.
I find that unlikely. I mean, it's
Yeah.
possible. I think that there would be some kind of law enforcement, but you would also have the question of whether or not there would be superpowered police. And if you have superpowers, can you be a police officer? Or do you have to be a police officer for that matter? If
You're conscripted,
you
or-
want to fight crime,
Very interesting. RC brings up the American Civil Super Liberties Union. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
that
and
could-
there is definitely the question of what are the civil rights of people who have powers? Can like Troy was saying, can they be conscripted? Can the government force you to use your powers in a particular way? Can they be forced to register their identities with the government and let everybody keep track of their movements? If you are a normal person, do you have the right to know if someone in your neighborhood has superpowers?
Yeah. And by the way, there are no correct answers to any of these questions. These are just things that you can think
Yeah.
about as you are world building your superhero setting.
There's a lot of, when we think about what we deal with in the day to day, like for instance, mundane as it is, the cell phone had changed a lot of the way we lived our lives, right?
Mhm.
What are some other aspects that you think would shift or change the mundane into something else because of the advent of supers?
It depends a lot on the prevalence of people with powers and how common certain powers are. The thing with technology like cell phones is they're ubiquitous.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why they changed things was because not nearly everyone has one. And so they're so common that they have changed the way we interact with, say, the internet or communicating. People with superpowers, unless they're that common, are probably not going to have that level of impact on things. Maybe if they are like inventing technologies, that would be another thing.
I wonder if they're, I'm looking at Sean Holland says authoritarian states certainly will. It was interesting. In my mind, I just had this vision of an adventure that you could do in an alternate timeline where the heroes are sort of almost like the Matrix hooked up to a battery that powers something,
Sure.
But that'd be an interesting story to kind of wrestle with.
Sure.
I would say authoritarian states certainly will if the dictator has powers.
Mhm.
Otherwise, maybe they're
Yes.
like, maybe we won't mess with those people just in case.
Well, just to use an example from the Earth Prime setting, China has the Superpowers Collective, that basically is an alien device that can steal your superpowers. And the Chinese government basically has an official policy of if you have superpowers in China, the state owns them and is going to take them from you and do whatever they want with them.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
One of the Seans of the M&M Seans has a question. Let's see. And the question is, quick rules question. How fast does move object move things in your range? I've been using throwing rules for how fast you can move a held object into move action.
Power rank minus mass rank equals speed rank,
Yep.
There you go.
generally speaking.
That's why we love the rank chart.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So, that's really interesting, too.
Which is basically the throwing rules, by the way. But
Great. Jason Jenkins brings this up and it reminds me of something. So one person that can fly a large load into low orbit could undercut the SpaceX industry altogether. I mean, with one small thing can destroy whole industries.
Well, and also revolutionize whole industries, because there's tremendous amounts of technology that are limited by the fact that it's so expensive to put things in orbit.
Right.
If it was essentially, I won't say free, but if it was essentially whatever this person was charging, in order to do it, that would be a total game changer for a lot of things.
Yeah, and that's because that's a very specific industry. There are other ones where there's a lot more people to deal with. Like, I'm thinking of a plant controller who gets into landscaping. They're not going to do every yard in Freedom City, so there will still be mundane landscaping companies that are in competition with them, and that gives you something to play with as well.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking here. Let's see. David Bullock says Wally West did deliver a few packages for a bit post-crisis. Sure.
So there's a really good episode of Young Justice where he runs an organ across the country.
It's actually based on a story from the comics where he does that.
Interesting. RC says, gonna lobby Congress to let me blanket the sky with satellites and then make cities pay me for sunlight. It seems a lot like how we handle water.
I would like my orbital advertising beaming down on the continent.
Into your eyeballs. Across your neighborhood. I like that. Now, here's an interesting one. And I mean, this, when we talk about the mundane, I don't know where this fits, because things like world hunger and natural disasters and things like, why aren't there more utopian style, superhero stories?
I mean, my answer to that is we have enough food to feed everybody in the world. We throw most of it away in the world we live in now.
Truth.
Just because somebody can solve the problem doesn't mean they will.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And
people
of course,
will actually work. Yeah,
a lot of real world problems are very complex, and superhero stories, let's be honest, are basically kids' stories, so they're much more about the action of fighting bad guys than they are about going around and fixing the atmosphere. Or whatever, it might be cleaning the oceans, things like that. And a lot of those things are potentially hugely complicated, with a lot of potential, fallout from messing with them.
So I'm doing something good for the world, I think, but it ends up not so good, because I didn't think of all of the repercussions of my actions.
Indeed,
almost like messing with the timeline or something.
That's an absolute element of a real world setting with powers is just the oops, like I didn't know my powers worked that way, or that would happen if I did that.
Right.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah, I dig that quite a bit. Let's see. There was a, interesting. I wonder. Sean Dugan mentions, what the thought around how unions would react to supers.
I think it depends very heavily on whether the supers were union members or not.
Yeah,
right.
I think it would vary widely from job to job, and I'm sure there'd probably be super unions and non-super unions.
Yeah, and good unions and questionable unions and that whole power dynamic. I do see, Gerald, the landscaping companies putting out hits or creating many a nemesis with the plant.
There is, just like any technology has the potential to put a lot of people out of work. A super who can do the job of 1,000 people is going to put a lot of people out of work.
That would be Alex. Oh, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, Alex's example of the super speedster who is stocking all the shelves, all those stock people out of a job, they're not needed.
Right.
Yeah, I was just thinking how it'd be a really interesting adventure for a low-level superhero team to, like a plant control landscaper. They do a lawn, and then a regular person comes and sabotages their work and keeps doing that, and they're trying to figure out who's doing it and trying to,
Hmm.
that'd be fun.
Yeah, my cabbages. Sure, I
Yeah,
like that.
sure.
Let's see.
And Alex
Go ahead.
raises the point that that's the interesting part about all of this is it does create a ton of interesting new adventure hooks,
Mhm.
and ways to design adventures that aren't your traditional sort of comic book stories.
Yeah, those conflicts that we're talking about, the pro super union, the anti super
Hmm.
union,
Hmm.
these
Yeah,
superheroes are taking our jobs. There's opportunities to tell stories
stories
about
there.
those conflicts.
I wonder if there's some interplay or some opportunity to go to mess around with how generations feel about
Sure.
Mhm.
supers. They could have a very different idea about or feeling about supers from the 80s than they
Yeah.
Yeah,
do. Yeah. Yeah.
and especially depending on how long they've been around, and
Mm,
sort of how history has seen them.
Mhm.
If, for example, people with superpowers came along, a generation ago, and they were initially just this tremendous boon, but then something bad happened,
yeah.
um, and you end up with the scenario like The Incredibles,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
all of a
sure.
sudden, now, super's not so great, not so popular, except of course with the people who remember the good old days, who are like, no, they were great. Like, I don't understand why
Right.
people don't like them so much anymore.
That's the last thing the greatest generation needs is to be the origin point of superheroes too. They'd never
Ugh,
let anybody live it down.
No,
why
they'd never
back
let
in my
anybody hear the
day?
end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially
You
if like
know,
Centurion is still young in modern days and like everybody's grandpa is like, that's our hero. We love him.
sure.
Like, yeah.
Let's see. Looking at some comments and questions. Lots of great ideas. Yeah, this one really struck a nerve. Lots of comments. Let's see.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Gene talks about someone who can give anyone good health, delaying health problems for years. Yeah,
Sure.
somebody who wants to control that power, and
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
yeah. Earth Prime's FOE is
And
a villain you need.
and speaking of
Yep.
controlling that power, we talked about, that healer, being constantly in demand, but also conversely, I can see that person getting arrested for practicing medicine without a license.
Oh,
Mhm.
right, absolutely. Oh,
You know.
wow, absolutely. Getting kind of. I guess you can also play around with bureaucracy and how
Oh yeah,
that. Yeah.
because insurance companies and like medical associations are going to be up in arms about somebody like that,
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Imagine if
and
it goes wrong, the medical malpractice suit.
right?
oh boy,
Like,
right. Oh, would that mean that would supers have to have liability insurance?
Possibly.
yeah, probably. OSHA would also have to have a special division dedicated to making sure people don't go lick experimental animals or jumping into
Yeah.
reactors or
Indeed.
Right.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
especially, when we talk about in Paragons, the notion of origin chasers,
Mhm.
of there are going to be people who are just going to be like, I want to get hit by lightning. I want to get dunked in chemicals, because I may get superpowers out of it,
Oh,
even
Mhm.
though there's a 99.9% chance I'm just going to die horribly.
fascinating. So this could also be sort of your kind of Tide Pod,
Yep.
thing, or
Oh,
your
yes.
yeah.
The superpowers challenge on the internet
Oh
would
my
be
gosh.
terrifying.
I
And
just
I could
got
also
secondhand anxiety and I don't
I
even live
did
there.
too. My stomach just flipped. I mean, honestly, it really did. And I could see a young super thinking that they were being so funny and being so clever at kind of,
Mhm.
a dilettante playing around on the internet, not realizing that what they're doing is inspiring people to,
Yeah, to hurt themselves.
yeah,
Yeah,
hurt
even if they're
themselves.
not even if they're just a teenager with good video editing skills, they could cause so much havoc.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that. Let's see. Sean Dugan says power chasers.
Yep.
As a question or as a you're calling that out, my friend. You like the idea or elaborate, please? Angel says there might be more Lex Luthors who would exploit heroes in different ways for their own benefit.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and really, how do you define that exploitation depending on your vantage point?
Yeah, that's a question to be resolved in the setting.
Let's see. Yeah, RC says superpowers aren't FDA approved. Ignore the wad of bills with the insurance company logo
Sure.
bending. Yeah. Exactly. Plenty of Next in Tiger and Bunny have weird, and I'm not familiar with Tiger and Bunny. Is that a
It's an
cartoon?
anime. It's pretty
An
good.
anime? I'll have to
I
check it out.
think it's based on a comic book, but I know it's an anime.
I will
Mhm.
say this. Now we're whoa, it's 2:40 already. I
Sorry, a
wanted to.
manga. I think it's a manga, not a comic book.
Mm.
There's a
I
difference.
see. I see. But yeah, we I was just going to say we always get great suggestions on media and shows to watch, books to read. But we also ask our chat to make sure take a look at where you're at. If you're on Facebook, if you're over on Twitch, if you're on maybe you're on LinkedIn. Maybe you're hanging out on LinkedIn, the
can't
world's
believe we
worst
stream on
social
LinkedIn.
media. I'm doing it now as a joke because we are
Hey, we got a viewer from LinkedIn.
we sure did, and we do appreciate that
No,
viewer.
person, we appreciate you. Please come
Share
over to
it.
YouTube.
Right, you don't have to watch us on LinkedIn.
We're coming over to rescue you, friends, free you from your your fire in the belly prison over there on LinkedIn. But if you are there, leave us a like, leave a comment, say hello, share the post with your friends. You know what? Send it to the printer, print it out,
Mhm.
read it as a play in your local community theater. All of those things really help spread the word and get
Yep.
people engaged and learning more about this program that we're doing. And at the end of the day, we do this for you,
Mhm.
100%. So yeah,
So
share, like, love, and make sure you tickle that bell so that you get notifications when we go live.
Raymond talks about, the notion of basically like people with healing needing to have medical training and malpractice insurance and all of that sort of a thing. If you want a real controversial, element for your supers game, have the super character who has energy blast powers decide that it's a Second Amendment issue that they can't be limited.
Oh my gosh.
You're
yeah.
right. I have
Because
the
when
right
it's
to be arms.
when it
These
says
are
bear
arms.
arms, I'm always armed.
I'm always armed, and they are bear arms.
You can't limit my ability to use my blast powers, when
Mhm.
I feel threatened.
Yeah, take my arms over my cold dead body. Literally, yeah. Let's see. The Gestalt sourcebook had a chilling picture of a soaked girl with. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a rough one. I don't know that I personally would really dig into that, but that is powerful and
That's definitely session zero material to talk
Mhm.
about with your
Mhm.
players. And that's
Yeah.
a key thing when you're starting to add a lot of mundane reality into your superhero game is definitely talk to your players about where their lines are, as far as that goes when you're talking about things like um, really bad power mishaps or
Yeah.
the character's civil rights,
Yeah.
or things like that. Those are definitely areas you want to be very clear where your players are at.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's
Well
true
said.
for everything, but especially I think with these themes of things that are confronting from the real world.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then allow folks to make the decision as to whether or not they want to
Yeah,
engage in that.
some
Yeah.
some folks are going to find that this a really rich, interesting, set of stories. Other people are like, you're getting too much reality in my superheroes, and
Right.
I just want to punch bad guys.
Well,
Like,
It's important to remember this is a game and we are looking for fun.
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people's fun is exploring that sort of late stage capitalism dystopia. Some of it is just I
Mhm.
want to punch bad guys and I want to fight a monkey in a bank vault.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I want to tussle with some guy named Chuck Wagon.
Yeah. Or Elvis got abducted by mind controlling caterpillars
by
and
mind
sent to the
caterpillars
future.
from space, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
I had Eminem is great for that because you can do both things. Like I had an X-Men game that was very much traumatic. It was traumatic for a lot of the people who were there because it was about an anti-mutant cult that adopted a mutant and corrupted his mutation and mind controlled him to try and get rid of all mutants. And then I had the Elvis caterpillar time travel shenanigans. So
I love it. I mean, those are shenanigans well shenaned. Let me see here. I jumped over a few comments. this one just fascinated me, and then I immediately blinked. Oh, that's so. Ken Pham says I'm switching over to LinkedIn. A question: what would superhero LinkedIn look like?
Right.
It would just be insufferable, I think.
I think so too. I think it would actually be just a wasteland, because I think most superheroes would be terrible at keeping up their profiles.
Right. It would just be actually a bunch of PR flack.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we think superhero LinkedIn or superhero Tinder would be worse?
Oh no!
Superhero
Alex.
Tinder would probably be better maintained.
It would probably be more pay. Yeah, exactly. But wow, just that whole thought just made me go, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of guys with fish pictures, it's guys with criminals held up.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Oh, today's catch.
The selfies, which would just be a selfie.
Yeah, the superhero selfies would be insufferable.
Absolutely the worst. So there'd be lots of like, I'm on the moon, or I'm at the heart of the sun. Let's see.
So Gene about heroes can defeat normal criminals without killing them, and that is absolutely a comic book staple, and a key thing to talk about when you're playing a superhero game with your players is whether or not lethal force is ever going to enter into things. Do heroes ever kill or the like? The thing about a more realistic setting is that it is actually, unless your powers are absolutely non-lethal, like you have the power to make people fall asleep, and even then that can be dangerous in the right circumstances. It is actually really hard to fight someone and not injure them. If you're going to defeat them, if you're going to knock them unconscious, especially if you have the ability to punch through brick walls, and melt steel with your eyes.
Well, being knocked unconscious is not good for you either.
I was going to say severe concussions are not really good for you either, but it can actually be a lot harder to incapacitate people without hurting them than it looks. It's just in the superhero comics, Superman can punch a guy and not turn him into a fine red mist. As far as that goes, as Claude points out, the Human Torch uses fire as a weapon all the time, but somehow doesn't give people third-degree burns all the time.
Yeah, I do think that's an important thing that comes up a lot when I run games for people who haven't played M&M before. I mentioned to them that nothing's assumed to be lethal unless that's your intent.
Unless you specifically try to kill someone.
Yeah. You don't have to hold back and use less of your damage ranks or anything like that.
Right. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah. But conversely, when we're talking about a setting like Valiant, that's something we had to consider, because superpowers are pretty realistically lethal in the Valiant universe. And really super strong people punching you is not going to be good for you if you are made of flesh and blood.
Right. I have been on I've had my eye on chat, and in this conversation, my brain and also one eyeball on the archives, because I'm trying to find Juicy the Juice Bear. But what I have found is quite we've done some stuff.
Yes, and I'm kind of concerned that it's all been recorded for posterity at this point.
That's very true, actually. I'm looking at some of these things. I'll start sharing them here in a moment. But we've done a lot of designing of particular creatures, monsters, heroes, and things in the background.
Sure.
There's hell to pay. I forgot about that.
Hell to pay. Oh my God, Troy. That was Crystal's hair versus a toupee. I remember
William
right.
Shatner's. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Captain Kirk, I think, or anyway, that was something, wasn't it? So in looking at the time, so I'm looking at the calendar as well. What are we doing coming up for the holidays? Are we we're taking a Monday break betwixt? Do we got a couple weeks off after this show, or?
No, not that I see.
Look.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Sorry, we go right into our leftovers episode next Monday.
Oh, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. No
I
rest.
think our 2 weeks are Christmas and New Year's, Troy. I think that's what
Yeah.
you're
That's
thinking.
right. Yeah.
We are taking a holiday break between Christmas and New Year's.
There we go.
Because
just
they're
wanted
on
to-
Mondays.
Particularly because Christmas Day and New Year's Day are on Monday.
Yeah. Well, hey, so let's talk about this real quick. We've got Alex, you've got an update coming for the Patreon that'll pop over there tonight.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. What is that?
We have our next M&M mix-up vote. We're going to open the polls for you all. I'm doing something a little bit different this time. I've chosen a villain. You'll understand why. I've chosen Doc Holliday as the villain.
Mhm.
But we are giving a number of holidays and danger zones for you to vote on where the story is going to be. So if you want to have a story about what Doc Holliday does on Bastille Day at the casino or what, just things like that, it'll be a fun experiment, I guess, for me,
Mhm.
whatever you all vote for.
I love it. I love that. Well, that'll be ready tonight, shortly after the program today. Let's see. Well, why don't we do this? Steve, what have you got cooking in your world? What's happening? Whether it's, in Steve Kinsenland or
Mhm.
something related to Mutants Masterminds.
I am hard at work on Worlds of Valiant. I am deep in outer space right at the moment, researching everything about aliens and outer space and everything related to it, and writing about it, which involves. And I know I'm going to get a lot of sympathy for this, which involves reading a ton of comics and taking a lot of notes while I do it.
Somebody's going to hear that and they're going to grow up to be
Yeah.
that guy. They're going to finally they made it because they're reading comics for a career.
That's right.
I love it. Alex, what have you got cooking?
Oh, I just got back from Yukon yesterday, but that doesn't mean I'm slowing down.
Of course not.
Coming up this week, Wednesday, we're going to be doing a special actual play in Titan City for a Titan City Thanksgiving special. That's going to have to do with a outbreak of undead escaping from the underworld, and the heroes having to assist the Wolf Lord of the Dead, Chibiabos, with rounding them all up. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Nice.
Otherwise, we're continuing actual plays. I'm looking into what day we can do the second half of Dragon of Parkhurst Manor, which will hopefully be in December. Troy, I was going to send you a date after the show to see if we can make that work.
Well, you know what day it can't be?
What day is that?
Is it the 2nd?
Yes, it cannot be the 2nd. That's the we have a special appearance at a friendly local game store.
We do.
In
Yes.
Seattle? Is that where it
That's
is?
right. It's a Seattle adjacent. It's
Okay.
in a city called Linwood.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to be hanging out there. We'll be doing an actual play that you'll be GMing. You'll be there digitally. I've got
Yes.
it all set up. You'll be it'll be as though you are with us, but you'll be very flat.
That'll be a first time in my life for that.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be a lot of fun. We were, just happened to be coming across a thread that someone was writing about. It's kind of hard to get some people together to play M&M, and I was like, well, let's do it. RC says, Troy and Alex, I'm shooting you a Discord message, which I'm presuming is show timing critical. Kid Fam says, oh no, the horror reading comics.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
rough life. Rough life. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Gene. So we've got plenty of actual plays. Lots of things going on, and
One thing I want to focus on in the new year is making sure that we have a steady actual play schedule and figuring out
Mhm.
what we're going to be up to. We're going to have a lot of stuff to
Yeah.
play test next year and a lot of cool stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Private
We will
stuff and
definitely be
public
talking
stuff.
about that.
Very exciting. And I just want a little shout out to our friends that joined us for the Patreon chat that we had just last week. Was it?
Mhm.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
This week's been a hell of a year.
Be sure.
It truly has. Of course, Gene asked the question: any previews of Astonishing Adventures covers?
The covers he's asking for specifically.
Covers, yeah.
Mm,
You know
not
what?
yet.
I have.
Oh, you can make an executive decision.
I have one. I'll show you guys.
Nice.
Just one.
When? Right now?
I'll pull it up right now. Just
Oh my gosh, look at that.
ask and
Gene,
you shall receive. Don't
You
ever say I
ask
don't.
and you receive.
that's right. In abundance.
I have one of the time travel trilogy covers back, so I'll just share that real quick.
Yeah.
while Troy's
Yeah,
pulling
art for those
up.
is starting to roll in. So
let me know when you. Yeah, I'll see it, and then I'll pop.
I'll
us
just
into
hit share screen if that's okay.
Yeah, if you. But I need to switch the camera.
Oh, cool. I've pressed the share screen button.
Okay, now we're good.
boom.
Ooh.
So this is our primary villain for the Chrono Crisis trilogy. Is what we're calling it. Gabrielle.
Nice.
She is a former worker for the Time Authority
I love that.
who was upset that they kept telling her she couldn't mash up timelines and make her own fun writer decisions. Too
Who's
much
arting-
editorial interference.
Right.
Who's arting this? Who made the art for it?
I don't know the answer to that question.
We'll find out. Yeah.
We'll find out.
Yeah, Hal knows the answer to that question.
Right.
But they will, of course, be credited in the product when it's finished.
Yes,
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so wow, we got 5 minutes left. What shall we do? Should we sing?
Let's not do that.
I don't know why I said sing. I do not want to do that myself. You know what?
Right.
What I can do actually. Let me find these little. I've got to find. Our friend. Who was I looking for? I was looking for Juicy, the Juice Bear.
Yes, Juicy the Juice Bear.
But
Wow.
instead, I found something
Okay.
a little different. Let me see. A share screen. It might as well be this one. And here we go. Pop you over like that and do this. Oh yes, that was from a Patreon just chat.
Honk.
Yeah, the murder goose.
Mhm.
Let's see. Oh, this is a real classic one. This is a guy filled with 30 ferrets.
Yep.
Yeah. This is one of my favorites. Mountain Treacle, flavor blasted.
Mhm.
Very fun. This one, what were we doing here?
Troy,
The mind.
It's anyone's guess, really.
That came from a program that we did. And then of course there's a whole collection of salsa based, condiment based creatures, which
Mhm.
I don't know if I was just like in a fever dream and did that myself.
course.
A little likely the case.
And a fun bit of trivia for our viewers, what folks often don't know is that when Troy creates a new title card for a new Mumamo episode, all of the files are named Dr. Corgi and a number.
They are. They really are.
They really are.
I would never want to look at Troy's hard drive.
Oh,
Right.
it is a
Not for the
disaster.
content.
How he finds anything is beyond us.
I've lost more things than I
Yeah.
think any of us. Yeah.
It stresses me out. It keeps me up at night.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that somebody out there is worried for me. I do appreciate that.
My job.
Well, listen, we are now at the end of our program. I want to thank everybody for hanging out in chat. Always a delight. Always fun to see you. We really do appreciate it. And we also appreciate your support and sharing and liking and doing all that good stuff. We've got lots more fun stuff coming for the remainder of the schedule. Remember, you can, and can I do it fast enough? You can follow what we're doing and see what's the next subject is, which is
On our
very,
calendar.
That's right, on our calendar.
Thanks again to Pope for the subject for today's show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
I know
evocative.
it's sort of a wide-ranging, sprawling topic, but it's the world we live in. It's cool.
Yeah, indeed.
That's right.
There's a lot to
That's
cover.
right. And a lot of fun. Here's the link that I will give you. Follow it. And as we make changes, I endeavor to keep that the calendar up to date. And so share the link. There we go.
Right, and join us for our planning episodes when they come around, because we, obviously do take folks' suggestions.
We do. And you know what else? Oh, thank you, RC. You're the best. the other thing I wanted to say is that if you've got an idea or you've got something you'd like us to touch on, we can take a minute or two during a program. Just let us know. But for now, we say happy Mumamo. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you
And
on Thursday for Thursday. Go
great
ahead.
Thanksgiving holiday to everybody's in the States.
I lied. We're not going to be here for
I
Thursday.
suspect you're
We're
not
not.
here on Thursday, Troy.
No, and thank
Might
you
be
for
alone.
that. That's right. All by myself. But I'm never alone when chat's around. Hey, everybody. Talk to you soon. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you when we're back. Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.